I'm Amber Pierce, 35, a single mom from Denver, Colorado who never thought my own sister could shatter my world. For years I poured my heart into keeping our family together, sacrificing my dreams, my savings, everything to lift her up. I trusted her with my home, my son, my life. But at a family dinner, that trust exploded. My son slid a notebook across the table, his small hands steady. My sister froze, her fork clattering to the plate. Her eyes widened, locked on the pages that held her 5-year lie, a secret so dark it could ruin her. My pulse raced. I grabbed the notebook, flipped it open, and saw the truth she'd hidden. "Damn it!" I shouted, slamming the table so hard the glasses shook. She dropped to her knees, trembling, begging, "Please forgive me." But I stared at her, my voice ice cold. "There's no second chance for a traitor." My hands shook with rage, betrayal cutting deeper than I'd ever felt. She'd taken everything, my security, my son's future. But what she didn't know was how far I'd go to protect what's mine. You'll want to hear what happened next. This dinner changed our family forever. Drop a comment with where you're watching from, and if you've ever been blindsided by family betrayal. Hit subscribe, smash that like button, and ring the bell to see how this unfolds. Trust me, you won't believe what she did. Looking back, it all started in our childhood in Denver. I was 7 when my parents brought my sister home from the hospital. Her tiny fingers grabbed mine, and from that moment we were close despite the age gap. We shared everything, secrets, clothes, even that silly made-up language only we understood. But our home wasn't always peaceful. As I grew older, the arguments between mom and dad escalated. They'd shout late into the night, and my sister would slip into my bed whispering she was scared. I'd hug her tight and tell stories until she slept. Those moments made me feel like her protector. By the time I turned 18, things fell apart completely. Mom packed up and moved to another state for a new job, while dad dove into work and started dating someone much younger. The divorce dragged on, with them fighting over everything from the house to us kids. I had plans for college applications, ready for a teaching program. But who would look after my sister? She was only 11, still needing help with homework and meals. Dad was barely around, always at the office or with his girlfriend. So I put my dreams on hold. I got a part-time job at a local bookstore, stocking shelves during the day and studying online at night when I could. Every morning I'd wake my sister for school, pack her lunch, and make sure she had clean clothes. Evenings meant cooking simple dinners like pasta or sandwiches, then sitting with her through math problems or reading assignments. Dad would show up occasionally looking guilty. "You don't have to do this all alone," he'd say before vanishing again. "But she's family," I'd reply. It felt that straightforward. The years blurred together. While my friends headed off to college parties and dorm life, I worked double shifts to keep us afloat. I finally scraped together enough for community college classes, aiming for a teaching degree. My sister blossomed under the stability she got. Good grades, joined the school soccer team, and made friends easily. Seeing her happy kept me going. When she got a partial scholarship for high school extracurriculars, I felt a surge of pride, like it was worth every missed opportunity. "I'll make it up to you one day," she promised as I drove her to practice. "Just keep succeeding," I'd tell her, though our budget was tight after buying her cleats and uniforms. At 25, I met Travis at a school event where I was volunteering. He was charming, a mechanic with steady work and a warm smile. We dated for a year before getting married in a small ceremony at a Denver park. Soon after, I was pregnant with our son. For a brief time, life seemed on track. I landed a full-time job as a middle school teacher, grading papers and planning lessons while Travis fixed cars. Our small apartment in the suburbs felt cozy. When our son arrived with my eyes and Travis's grin, joy filled me completely. My sister drove over from her part-time gig to meet him, bringing a knitted blanket she'd made. "He's beautiful," she said, holding him close. "You're going to rock this mom thing." But cracks appeared when our son was 3. Travis started staying out late, claiming overtime at the shop. His phone stayed locked and he'd snap if I asked questions. One night I found messages from another woman on his device. He didn't deny it, just packed a bag and left for her place across town. The divorce was quick but painful, with him fighting for minimal child support. Suddenly I was a single mom, handling everything: bills, teaching, and raising our boy. My sister stepped in right away, moving closer to help. "I've got your back," she said, "just like you had mine." She picked up our son from daycare, cooked when I graded late, and made me laugh through the tears. Those months built even stronger trust between us. Little did I know how fragile it really was. After the divorce, I focused on rebuilding in the suburbs of Denver. Teaching middle school became my anchor, planning lessons on history and literature, grading essays until late. The salary wasn't huge, but it covered our modest home with a backyard for my son to play. I started setting aside money whenever possible. First, an emergency fund for unexpected bills like car repairs or medical visits. Then a college account for my son, adding small amounts from bonuses or tax refunds. Finally, savings for a small online tutoring business. I planned something flexible to spend more time with him as he grew. It took 5 years of careful budgeting, no eating out, cutting coupons for groceries, skipping vacations. Each deposit felt like a step toward security. $50,000 total represented endless overtime hours and freelance gigs on weekends. My son noticed the changes. "You're smiling more, Mom," he'd say while we cooked simple meals together. With better hours, I could attend his school events and help with homework without exhaustion pulling me down. My sister's life took a different path in Denver's inner city. She bounced between jobs, starting as a barista, then moving to retail, always quitting over conflicts with managers or coworkers. Her calls came irregularly, sometimes excited about a new opportunity, other times desperate for cash. "Can I borrow $200 until payday became common?" I'd transfer it, reminding her gently about previous loans. She'd get defensive. "You're counting every dollar with your own sister. After all we've shared." Those words hit hard, making me feel guilty for setting boundaries. I'd given, telling myself it was temporary help for family. But the amounts grew: $500 for rent, $800 for car fixes. She promised repayments that rarely came. I sensed underlying resentment. During visits, she'd glance at my stable home and comment on how lucky I was. "You've got it all figured out," she'd say with a tight smile. I brushed it off, assuming it was stress from her unstable routine. One evening she called in tears about another eviction. Her latest serving job at a downtown restaurant hadn't paid enough. I offered my spare room temporarily. She moved in for a few weeks, helping with chores and watching my son, but small issues arose. $20 vanished from my purse. I'd left it on the counter, certain it was there. She claimed it might have fallen out. Then a credit card I seldom used showed odd charges for online shopping. She explained them as surprises she planned for my son's birthday. "Did you use my card?" I asked, once hating the suspicion. "How could you think that of me?" she replied, eyes filling with water. I backed down, feeling awful. This was the girl I'd raised, who'd stayed up with my son during his fevers. If she borrowed, it must be innocent. Her chaos peaked when she met her new boyfriend at the bar where she waited tables. He was all she talked about, confident with big ideas for starting a delivery service. He just needs startup funds, she'd gush. When I met him at a casual lunch, something felt wrong. He was polished, asking too many questions about my job, salary, and savings habits. "How do you manage as a single teacher?" He'd probe, his smile not reaching his eyes. My son tugged my sleeve later. "I don't trust him, Mom. He looks at our things strangely." I dismissed it as kid intuition, telling him adults sometimes disagree, but signs mounted. Bills I'd asked her to pay online arrived late with fees. She'd offer excuses about forgotten passwords. John for utilities showed extra usage I couldn't explain, and he'd visit, eyeing my laptop or asking casual questions about banking apps. I caught him once glancing at my financial statements on the kitchen table. "Just curious how teachers budget," he'd say smoothly. Deep down, I started noticing her hidden bitterness. During a quiet talk, she mentioned our parents' old assets, like the small inheritance from Dad's side. She'd handled some paperwork years ago, claiming it was minimal. But her tone shifted when money came up, hinting she deserved more for the tough times. I didn't press, assuming it was past stress. Little things built suspicion, a missing receipt here, an unexplained withdrawal there. Yet I pushed doubts aside. Family meant support, and she'd been there for me before. If only I'd paid attention sooner. Then came the call that changed everything. My sister rang one afternoon while I was prepping lessons, her voice cracking over the line. "The landlord kicked us out with no notice," she sobbed. "We have nowhere to go." I paused, staring at my stack of student papers. My teaching conference was in a nearby city just 3 days away. "Come stay here," I offered. "The spare room is ready." She arrived that evening with bags in hand, her boyfriend trailing behind. "Thanks for this," she said, hugging me tight. "It's just until we find a place." My son watched from the doorway, his eyes narrowing at the man. The house in our Denver suburb felt crowded suddenly, but I pushed the feeling aside. Family helped family. That night, as I packed for the conference, my sister asked about emergency access. What if something happens while you're gone, a doctor's visit or school fee for my son? I hesitated, remembering the odd charges from before, but her eyes pleaded and guilt won out. "Fine," I said. "Use my laptop, it's already logged into the banking app. Just for real needs." She nodded quickly. "Of course. I won't touch it otherwise." My son lingered nearby, fiddling with his old phone I'd given him for games. He shot me a look but said nothing. The next morning, I dropped him at school and headed out waving from the car. Call if anything comes up, I told them. The drive to the conference was short, my mind on sessions about classroom strategies. The event kept me busy, workshops on student engagement, networking with other teachers. I called home during breaks. My son sounded fine. Aunt's making pancakes, he reported once. Her boyfriend's showing card tricks. Sounds fun, I replied, though unease flickered. By the third day, no issues surfaced. I wrapped up early and drove back, eager for normalcy. Pulling into the driveway, the house looked the same, flowers in the yard from our spring planting. Inside, my sister greeted me with coffee. Everything went smooth, she assured. My son hugged me, but his face seemed tense. I unpacked, then sat to check emails. A bank notification popped up, unusual activity. My stomach dropped. I opened the app. The balances stared back, zero across all accounts. Emergency fund drained. My son's education savings gone. Business startup money vanished. $50,000 transferred in chunks over 3 days, small enough to slip under immediate alerts but cleared out completely. My hands trembled as I scrolled through transactions. Wires to unknown accounts timed when I was away, how the laptop I'd left it logged in. I confronted my sister in the kitchen. Did you access my accounts? Her face paled. What? No. Why would I? The transfers happened while I was gone. She shifted, glancing at the door. Maybe a hack. Banks get breached. But the log showed logins from my device. I called the bank, voice shaking. They confirmed the activity, advising police involvement. My sister paced, denying everything. It must be a mistake. I'll help sort it. But doubt gnawed at me. Her boyfriend had vanished earlier, claiming errands. As tension built, my son tugged my sleeve. Mom, I need to show you something. He pulled out his old phone and a small notebook from his backpack. I never trusted that guy, he said quietly. He talks funny about money. What do you mean? 2 nights ago, I heard them arguing in the guest room. He was pushing her for cash, big amounts. My son explained he'd felt scared, so he started recording snippets on the phone whenever they spoke alone. He handed it over, fingers steady. Press play on this one. The first clip crackled to life, voices low but clear from behind a door. Her boyfriend's tone was urgent. Your sister has plenty stashed, emergency stuff, kids' school fund, even business cash. We need it now. My sister sounded hesitant. I can't take from her. She's done too much already. He pressed harder. You owe me after what I know. Remember those papers you signed? We could use that. The recording cut off, but my son's notebook picked up. He transcribed parts, his childish handwriting noting key lines. Another clip from the next day, hidden under a plant in the living room. Her boyfriend's voice turned pleading. I'm in deep trouble, guys who don't mess around. They'll come after me if I don't pay up. 40,000 at least. My sister whispered back. She doesn't suspect. But it's borrowing, we'll return it once your venture starts. I froze, piecing it together. The manipulations, the pressure. My son had captured their plans, summarizing in the notebook with dates and quotes. He even noted her boyfriend snapping at my sister. Do it or I spill what you did with those inheritance stocks. My heart raced. What inheritance? The evidence showed clear intent, her boyfriend directing, my sister complying. I looked at my son, amazed. How did you know to do this? From those mystery shows we watch, he shrugged. Bad people always slip up if you listen. The recordings and notes laid out their scheme step by step. Rage built as I confronted my sister again. You let him use my laptop, you transferred the money, she crumbled, admitting parts. He needed it bad. Those creditors, he said they'd hurt him, but you helped wipe me out. My son's future, our safety net. She teared up. It was supposed to be temporary, he'd promised big returns. The notebook trembled in my hand, its pages damning. My son stood silent, watching. I dialed the police, voice firm. We need to report a theft. The next evening brought the storm. I set the table for dinner in our Denver home, pulling out plates for a simple meal, roast chicken, potatoes, and salad from the fridge. My sister arrived with her boyfriend, carrying a bottle of cheap wine as a gesture. Let's make this nice, she suggested, her smile forced. My son sat quietly, picking at his napkin. Her boyfriend chatted about his latest business pitch, something about delivery services needing quick cash. Tension hung thick, but I kept conversation light, asking about my son's day at school, sharing bits from the conference. He responded in short answers, his eyes flicking to the backpack beside him. As we ate, the room felt heavy with unspoken words. Then my son cleared his throat. Mom, I have something for you. He reached into his backpack and pulled out the notebook, sliding it across to me. My sister's fork stopped midway, her face draining of color. What is that? She asked, voice sharp. I opened it, scanning the pages. His handwriting filled them, notes from hidden spots, timestamps from the past 3 days, transcripts of conversations he'd captured on his old phone summarized neatly. One entry jumped out. Aunt and her boyfriend in the guest room whispering about money, he said. Your sister has plenty stashed, emergency stuff, kids' school fund, even business cash. We need it now. She replied, I can't take from her. She's done too much already. He pushed. You owe me for keeping quiet about those papers 5 years ago. As the words sank in, my pulse quickened. Papers. The next section detailed more, her boyfriend outlining the transfers. How they'd split the amounts to avoid flags, 10,000 here, 15 there. My sister had agreed, her transcribed voice shaky. Okay, but we return every penny. The final note hit hardest. She admitted faking Dad's inheritance docs to borrow from you back then, used it for her debts never told, and now he's using it to make her steal again. My sister's chair scraped back. Where did you get that? She demanded, voice high and breaking. My son met her eyes calmly. I heard you. Recorded bits when you thought I was asleep, then wrote it down so Mom would see. Her hands shook as she stood reaching for the notebook. That's private, give it here now. But I held firm, flipping to the evidence of her deception. 5 years ago, after Dad passed, she'd handled the estate paperwork. Claimed it was small, no big assets left after debts. But here in black and white, her own words confessed to altering documents, forging signatures to claim extra funds, borrowing against what should have been shared between us. She'd taken thousands, then promising herself it'd be one time to cover bad choices like failed jobs or loans. But it spiraled into a habit, using the money for personal escapes, boyfriends who drained her, covering tracks with more lies. And now with her current guy, she'd escalated, using my trust to clean out my accounts, funneling it to his so-called venture. Rage boiled over, hot and unstoppable. Damn it, I shouted, slamming the table. Glasses rattled and my son flinched but stayed put, his face determined. You've been lying for years, faking our parents' legacy, stealing from me bit by bit to fund your messes. And now this 50,000 gone because of your secrets and his pressure. My voice echoed in the kitchen. My hands clenched around the notebook. She crumpled, dropping to her knees beside the chair, tears streaming as she clutched my leg. Please, it's not what it looks like. He forced me, said he'd expose everything if I didn't help with the transfers. I was scared, trapped. Her sobs filled the room, body trembling. Forgive me, just this once, we're blood. But her boyfriend bolted for the door, muttering excuses about needing air. I grabbed my phone, dialing emergency with steady fingers. This is theft, send officers now. My sister begged louder, pulling at my sleeve. Don't do this, we're family. He'll go down and me with him. Think of what we've been through. I shook her off, the betrayal too raw. As sirens approached in the distance, I called Justin, my old boyfriend from college who'd become a lawyer in town. We hadn't spoken much since our split years ago, but he picked up immediately. I need help, I said, voice steady despite the chaos. My sister's stolen everything, got evidence here including her admitting to faking inheritance papers. He listened through her ongoing pleas, then promised to head over. I'll handle the report, make sure it's solid for court. Grand theft forgery, especially with the estate angle. I'll represent you pro bono, get statements locked in. Detective Laura Bennett arrived minutes later, badge flashing under the kitchen lights as officers secured the scene. She took one look at the notebook and phone. This looks thorough, she noted, glancing at my son with a nod. We'll need copies and statements from everyone. My sister sat defeated on the floor, hands cuffed as they led her out, still whispering apologies. Her boyfriend was caught blocks away, trying to flee on foot. Justin showed up soon after, reviewing the evidence with Bennett in the living room. We can build fraud charges fast, he assured me, flipping through the pages. The recordings tie it together, manipulation, intent, the whole scheme. I'll file for restitution too, chase any remaining funds. The house fell silent after they left, the dinner plates cold and untouched. My son hugged me tight. Did I do right? Absolutely, I whispered, holding him close. You saved us from worse. Hours after the arrests, my phone rang with an unknown number. I answered, and my sister's voice burst through, frantic and slurred. How could you turn me in? The police grabbed him at the casino, they're at our door now. I put it on speaker, sitting at the kitchen table where dinner remnants still lay scattered. You drained my accounts, I said flatly. Stole from your nephew. What did you expect? He was in trouble, she cried. Those people he owed, they threatened real harm. You have no clue what you've unleashed. Her accusation fueled my anger. What I've done, you wiped out our safety net, his education fund, my startup plans. $50,000 gone in days. She paused, breathing heavy. It's not that simple. He knew things, pushed me into it. But you chose to help, I countered. The evidence shows you planning it. Silence stretched, then her tone shifted to desperation. You're always the perfect one, the stable job. The cute kid, the cozy house. What do I have? Endless failures scraping by. I've envied you for years, watching you build while I fell apart. Her words stung, revealing cracks I'd ignored. So you decided to drag me down, I asked. No, she insisted. It started small. 5 years ago, after Dad died, I handled the papers, faked parts to claim more, borrowed against your share for my bills. Thought I'd pay back quietly, but debts piled up, and when he found out, he used it against me. Said he'd tell you everything unless I got the money. I gripped the phone tighter. You forged our inheritance, took what was ours, and hid it. She broke down. Yes, but he threatened exposure. Made it sound like we'd triple the cash at tables, then vanish. I believed him, stupid, desperate. Now he's arrested, and I'm next. What do I do? Tell the truth, I replied coldly. All of it. They'll haul me in too. Probably, I said. You earned that. The line crackled with her sobs. Please drop the charges. For old times. But the call ended abruptly as knocks echoed in the background. The next morning, I met Justin at his office downtown. He reviewed the phone, logs, and notebook. Solid case, he said. We'll push for full charges, grand theft, fraud. With the forgery angle, it's aggravated. I nodded, exhaustion weighing me down. Can we recover anything? He pulled up files. Police traced card use to a Dallas hotel. They've frozen remaining funds, about $20,000 left after their spree. I'll file for restitution on the rest. We headed to the precinct where Detective Bennett updated us. Your sister's cooperating somewhat, blaming her boyfriend mostly. But the recordings nail her involvement. Weeks later, the courtroom in Colorado felt cold and formal. Ana Rodriguez, the prosecutor, laid out the evidence, transfers, forgeries, my sister's confessions from interrogation. Justin stood as my advocate, presenting the notebook and audio clips. The defense argued manipulation, painting her boyfriend as the mastermind. My sister took the stand, voice trembling. He knew my past mistakes, the fake docs, and used them. I went along out of fear. But Rodriguez pressed. You initiated the transfers. You hid the inheritance fraud for years. My sister admitted it, head bowed. Yes, but I regret everything. The judge ruled firmly. For the boyfriend, 10 years on federal fraud charges given his prior warrants across states. For my sister, 2 years in state prison followed by probation. No leniency despite cooperation. The aftermath hit hard. My sister lost her serving job immediately, her record barring rehire. Probation terms demanded restitution from any future earnings, but with skills gaps she faced years of minimum wage struggles. Bankruptcy loomed as old debts surfaced without my bailouts. Her boyfriend rotted in federal lockup, his schemes exposed in multiple jurisdictions. I got back $20,000 through seized assets, a partial win, but the rest vanished in their Dallas run. Justin helped seal the case, refusing payment. Call it for old times, he said. But I kept distance, focusing on rebuilding. In the months that followed, I made my choice. The courtroom echoes faded, but the betrayal lingered sharp. I blocked my sister's number first, then her email and social accounts. No more desperate messages slipping through. When a letter arrived from prison weeks later, I returned it unopened. Forgiveness wasn't an option. She'd crossed lines that couldn't be redrawn. Our shared history ended there. I refused visits during her sentence, ignoring pleas relayed through mutual acquaintances. Family ties snapped clean. My focus shifted to protecting what remained, ensuring she couldn't worm back in with excuses or guilt. That door stayed shut forever. Her consequences unfolded harshly. After serving 2 years, she emerged to a world that had moved on without her. Probation terms choked her options, regular check-ins, mandatory counseling, and wage garnishment for restitution. Her old serving job vanished. No restaurant in Denver would hire someone with a theft record. Applications piled up, rejected, forcing her into odd gigs like cleaning offices or stocking shelves at odd hours. Living arrangements crumbled too, a cheap motel room at first, then shared housing with strangers. Debts from before resurfaced without my bailouts, pushing her toward bankruptcy filings. Isolation set in. Old friends distanced themselves after hearing the details. She tried reaching out once through a cousin, but I shut it down. Her life narrowed to survival, a far cry from the carefree existence she'd chased. No more borrowing to float by, she faced the grind alone. Her boyfriend fared worse. His federal fraud charges stuck piling on priors from other states. The judge handed down 10 years, no parole chance early. Locked in a facility far from Denver, his schemes collapsed under scrutiny. Investigations uncovered more victims, extending his time behind bars. Assets seized barely scratched what he'd taken, but it stripped him bare. No more charming fronts or quick escapes, he rotted in routine, a cautionary end for con artists. Meanwhile, my life steadied without the weight of her chaos. Teaching brought new opportunities, a promotion to department head after impressing at that conference. The extra pay helped rebuild our funds, starting fresh with tighter security on accounts. I enrolled in online courses for my tutoring business, turning weekends into planning sessions. My son adapted well, his grades climbing in school. He joined a robotics club, channeling his detective instincts into building gadgets. We spent evenings hiking Denver trails or reading mystery books together. His counselor noted healthy progress, no lingering fears, just pride in speaking up. Small wins accumulated, a family vacation to the mountains, new clothes without skimping. Justin checked in occasionally, his legal help evolving into casual coffee meets. But I kept boundaries firm, focusing on our duo. The lessons hit deepest. Trust in family demanded limits I'd given endlessly, only to face ruin. Blind faith invited exploitation. Now I vetted every connection. Listening to kids proved crucial. My son's quiet observations had exposed the rot. Ignoring them risked everything, and betrayal carried real costs, not just emotional scars but shattered lives. No second chances for those who chose deceit over decency. In the end, cutting ties freed us, a hard-won peace in our Denver home.